It was the first real day of spring when everything started to unravel. The kind of day that fools you into thinking the world is gentle, warm, and full of promise. The sunlight poured through the tall windows of our home in Ohio, filling the kitchen with a golden hue. I was pouring myself a second cup of coffee, half listening to the birds chirping outside and half thinking about my to-do list when I heard the faint sound of movement upstairs. My husband, Dan, had left early for a work trip to Chicago. It was just me and his 17-year-old son, Lucas, for the weekend. Lucas had always been a quiet kid. Not sullen or rude, just reserved. He didn't speak much unless he was spoken to, and even then, his answers were short and clipped. I had been in his life for 3 years, married to his father for 2, and still felt like I was treading water with him. I never tried to replace his mom, who passed away when he was 9. I just wanted to be there in a way that didn't intrude. He never gave me much indication of how he felt about me one way or another, and maybe I accepted that because I didn't know what else to do. That Saturday morning, I thought maybe I'd try to connect with him a little more. We had the house to ourselves, and there was no pressure. I figured I'd make pancakes, his favorite, according to Dan, and we could just talk. No big deal. Just breakfast. I set a plate for him and called up the stairs, "Lucas, breakfast's ready." No response. I waited a few seconds before trying again. Still nothing. Something about the silence felt off. It wasn't just that he wasn't answering, there was no music, no game sounds, nothing. Lucas always had headphones on or something playing in the background when he was in his room. But it was dead quiet. I felt a small knot form in my stomach. I told myself not to overreact. Maybe he was just sleeping in. But a little voice in my head whispered that something wasn't right. I walked up the stairs and stopped in front of his door. It was slightly ajar, which was odd. Lucas always kept it closed. I knocked gently. "Lucas." Nothing. I pushed the door open slowly. That was the moment everything changed. I found him sitting on the floor, his back against the wall, knees pulled up to his chest. He was wearing a hoodie with the hood pulled low, and his face was turned away. At first, I thought maybe he was just deep in thought. But when I stepped closer, I saw the trembling in his hands. He was shaking. His whole body was. "Lucas," I said again, softer this time. He didn't look at me. Didn't speak. Just kept staring at the floor with eyes wide open but hollow. I knelt down beside him, not too close, just enough so he could hear me. "Hey. Are you okay?" He flinched, just barely, like my voice startled him. Then, finally, he turned his head and what I saw broke something in me. There were tears dried on his cheeks, his eyes red and glassy. His hands had faint marks, like he'd been gripping something too hard. But what struck me the most was the expression on his face. It was a look I had seen once before, years ago, when my younger brother had called me in the middle of the night to say he didn't want to be here anymore. It was the look of someone who was too close to giving up. I couldn't walk away. Not from that. Not from him. "Lucas," I whispered, more urgent now. "Talk to me. Please." He blinked slowly, then looked away again. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then he said, voice hoarse, "I didn't think you'd notice." The words hit me like a punch. I reached out, slowly, gently placing a hand on his knee. "Of course I'd notice. I care about you, Lucas. You can talk to me. About anything." He shook his head, biting his lip. "I don't want to be here." My heart dropped. I kept my voice steady, calm. "Do you mean, here in the house? Or?" He cut me off, eyes meeting mine for the first time. "Anywhere." That was the moment I stopped being afraid of overstepping. I didn't care if he'd never opened up to me before. I didn't care if I'd spent 3 years wondering if he even liked me. This wasn't about me. This was about a 17-year-old boy who was hurting so deeply he felt like disappearing. I sat down beside him, shoulder to shoulder. "I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere." He didn't respond, but he didn't pull away either. We sat in silence for a long time. I didn't try to fill it. I knew from experience that sometimes silence was safer than questions. After a while, he said, quietly, "It's not just one thing. It's everything. School. Dad. Me. I turned to him, listening. Tell me what you mean. He swallowed hard. I can't keep up in school. Everyone expects me to be fine, but I'm not. Dad doesn't see it. He thinks if I just focus, I'll be okay. But I'm trying. I really am. And then there's this pressure to be normal. To be a man. I don't even know who I am. I nodded, my throat tightening. You don't have to have it all figured out. No one expects that. I think he does, Lucas said, his voice cracking. He thinks I'm supposed to just get over stuff. Move on. But I miss my mom. I don't even remember her that well, but I miss her. And sometimes, I feel like I don't belong anywhere. Not with my friends, not at school, not even here. His voice dropped to a whisper. Especially not here. I blinked back tears. I know I'm not your mom. I never tried to be. But I care about you, Lucas. You are part of this family. You belong here. He shook his head. You don't know what it's like in my head. The noise. The thoughts. It's like I'm drowning all the time and no one sees it. I took a deep breath. You're right. I don't know exactly what it's like. But I know what it's like to feel alone. And I know what it's like to want to disappear. I've been there, too. He turned to look at me again, eyes narrowing slightly. You. I nodded. Years ago. After my dad passed. I didn't think anyone would understand. But someone reached out to me. Listened. It changed everything. Lucas looked down at his hands. It doesn't matter. Talking won't fix it. No, I said. But it helps. And you don't have to do this alone. We can talk to someone. A counselor. Someone who knows how to help. I don't want to shrink. I get that. But think of it like talking to someone who gets it. Someone who won't judge you. Someone trained to help people who feel like you do. He didn't respond, but his body language softened, just a little. I stayed with him for the rest of the morning. We didn't talk much after that, but the silence felt different. He wasn't shutting me out. He was letting me be there. That was enough for now. Later that afternoon, I texted Dan. I told him we needed to talk when he got back. No details, just that it was important. Then I sat down with Lucas again and asked him if he'd be willing to talk to a counselor at school, just once, just to try. To my surprise, he nodded. We made the appointment on Monday. I drove him there myself. Sat in the waiting room for the whole hour, hands shaking, heart tight. When he came out, he didn't say much, but he didn't seem worse. That was something. Over the next few weeks, things didn't magically get better. There were good days and bad ones. But he kept going to therapy. He started saying more at dinner. He even smiled once or twice. Dan had a hard time at first. He didn't want to believe his son was struggling so badly. But after a long conversation, and with Lucas's permission, I explained everything. Dan was quiet for a long time afterward. Then he asked me what he should do.